Good evening, golf fans, and welcome to a special PGA Championship edition of the Big D podcast. Before I bring in tonight's special guest from north on the border, please subscribe to the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where you can see latest and greatest. You don't know whether a hybrid, a three-wood, or maybe the old putter will appear. I mean, we've seen three-woods at Augusta. You never know what else could appear. And joining us tonight from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada is the DFS and betting writer Geoff Ulrich. Geoff?
Dylan, thanks a lot for having me on, man. Yeah, happy to be here to talk and get into a little bit of the PGA Championship this week.
Yep. So, Geoff, I can't think of many better courses to host the PGA Championship than Kiawah Island. I mean, the island course just seems made for a tournament. I mean, it's hosted three main events: the '91 Ryder Cup, the 2012 PGA, and this week it's going to host the 2021 PGA. So, what do you think of Kiawah this week?
I'm super excited, man. I agree. I mean, this one is like, this course just looks awesome. I mean, it's different than what we normally see. It's right beside the ocean. It's longer. It's going to be tough, I think, just because it's a Pete Dye design and it's got a ton of water on it. So I'm very excited to see how the pros handle this one. It's not going to be super windy, I don't think, although the wind can always get up. You're playing on the ocean. So I love these unique courses, these designs. I mean, this is part of the lure of major championship golf. We get these rotation at the other championships. Obviously, we always got Augusta, but I'm very excited to see this course because we haven't seen it since 2012, and I don't even remember what it was like when they played that. I know it was tough that year, but I don't even think I watched much of the PGA that year. So, and I was too young, quite frankly, to remember the Ryder Cup. So I'm very excited to watch this week. I think it's going to be a great event, and I think the course is definitely going to play a part of it. So.
I wasn't even born when the '91 Ryder Cup happened, and be honest, I don't even remember who finished second in 2012. I looked up the 20.
David Lynn.
David Lynn, and I'm like, who the heck is David Lynn?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, of course, Roy left the field that weekend. He took advantage. They were like wind and rain issues like Friday and Saturday was like nasty. Maybe perfect for Rory coming from Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Rory typically, it's funny. It's kind of like the win that Rory had at Kiawah Island was kind of like a little asterisk because a lot of the other wins he's had, like they win a congressional for the U.S. Open, his other PGA Championship win, his Open win, they're all easier scoring conditions. So this is like the one major that he's won when the scoring conditions have been tough. So it is interesting. He certainly handled it extremely well that week. He shot 3 rounds of 67 or better, I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. He had like one bad round and then 3 awesome rounds. So he handled this course like, he was just on top of his game in 2012 when he won here. So we'll see if he can repeat this year.
Yeah, we'll talk about betting. We'll talk about Roy a little bit later. So now we talk about our favorite bets of this week. So, Geoff, do you have a couple people in mind you're betting?
I mean, I got lots of people in mind. That's the problem with these weeks. I mean, the major championships, you get all the elite players. Everybody starts to look good, right? So, parsing down is the tough part in this one. We're getting pretty good odds. I mean, there's nobody in the single digits this week. I mean, you got Rory at the top going off around plus 11, plus 1,200. I think he's plus 1150 on the DraftKings Sportsbook right now. If you're interested, excuse me. But, for me, looking at this top of the board, if you can take 2 different approaches to it. You can start with one of the elite players. And I think if I was going to do that, it would probably be either Justin Thomas or Jordan Spieth. I think Jordan Spieth, just the form that he's shown in 2021, coming off a top 10, leading into a major. I love it when guys just post those solid results coming right into a major. I think this is a place where Jordan Spieth can win, and I don't really hate his odds. Now, for me, I'm more prone to be probably starting like deeper in these in these cards. I really just like attacking the middle of the betting cards. So a guy like Victor Hovland is probably going to get some money from me this week. He's plus 2,000 on DraftKings right now, but you might even be able to find him bigger on other sports books, depending on your selection, depending on where you live, if you're international, whatever. But I like Victor Hovland. Both of his wins have come on, sort of coastal tropical courses. One of them came on Paspalum Greens. Actually, both of them might have. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think it's a good setup for Victor Hovland. He's playing amazing golf right now. So,
yeah, and if you look at it, the PGA Championship has often been when guys have made a big breakthrough, whether it be Jason Day, even last year, Colin Morikawa, or Justin Thomas winning at Quail Hollow in 2017. The PGA Championship's been the one outlier. I mean, Rich Beam, Sean McKeel, and who was the guy that beat Tiger? Y.E. Yang.
Y.E. Yang, man. Y.E. Yang doesn't get any respect. One of the biggest Sundays ever. How you take down Tiger? You should just get lifetime exemption to all the majors for that. But no, you're right. It's been the breakthrough major. We saw it last year with Morikawa. We saw it when Day did it in 2015, another massive breakthrough. That's Hovland is just, it almost seems too simple with Victor Hovland, the way he's playing. Like that's the one thing I'd say, but it really has been that kind of major. Maybe just the pressure's a little bit less, playing for the Wanamaker Trophy versus like the Green Jacket. Maybe it's just a little bit less pressure. I don't know, but it has been the breakthrough major for a lot of young players. And like I said, I don't mind starting cards with Hovland here, but there's a couple other young players just above him that I like too.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the top, to me, two guys who I expected to have better odds this week were Bryson and Dustin Johnson. I mean, Bryson is plus 1,650, and I mean, yeah, Bryson has not been great. I mean, he all but missed the cut at Wells Fargo, then still got a top 10. Still got a top 10, and then last week, I don't know what he was doing in Dallas, but maybe beating the MC.
Yeah.
But if you look at Bryson this year, and to me, I think two courses that are similar to Kiawah are the API and the Players, because API long, narrow, you've got water, and the Players being a Pete Dye course, you've got water everywhere. And Bryson won the API and finished third at the Players.
I think those are two pretty good comparables, to be honest. Obviously, TPC Sawgrass, a Pete Dye design course. You could even call, Sawgrass maybe is just like a more condensed version of what they're going to see in Kiawah Island. Obviously, it's not set on an ocean or anything like that, but you do get like winds and trade winds and stuff like that in Florida too. So, yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think Bryson's performance on those two courses, not a bad comparison. I think, the concession tournament might also be a good comparison to this week, to what the Players might be experiencing. A more wide open course, a little bit bigger, a bit expansive, but also just really going to get hammered by the winds and spots. So Bryson's odds are very tempting. I don't disagree. I mean, there was a time last year when after he won the U.S. Open, we're like, are we, you should just bet Bryson anytime he's over like a plus 1,000. So to see him even available at these odds in a major is, it's pretty enticing. So I can't really put you off it. It's a long course. He's been inconsistent, kind of since the Masters. I think that's kind of why his odds have ballooned a little bit. But yeah, Bryson is just we know his top end game is just so good. So I think it's all going to come down to what can he do off the tee here. If he can really just hammer that driver a lot, he should be in good spots. I'm a little bit worried that the lines here are going to be tough for him to do that. And he might take away his best weapon. But, Bryson's an all-around golfer. He gained a bunch of strokes at Wells Fargo, like you said, ended up top 10ing there. He can kind of do it all at this point. So I think I'd rather bet Bryson than Dustin Johnson this week, although both those guys are really tempting. They're both had their odds ballooned. So I can see a lot of people just getting some late bets in on Bryson or Dustin just because of those odds.
And plus, people may be scared of DJ with the knee and thinking, he missed the cut at Augusta. But if you look at it, find me a guy who's probably played, maybe not this course, but these kind of conditions more than a native person from South Carolina.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a good point. I mean, DJ, this is a home state event for him. I mean, basically grew up around this area. I know there's a couple people that are interested in him this week. I could see it. He's been a great PGA Championship performer. Went off in the final group of this event last year. I mean, this is an event like he should eventually win. They're always longer setups at the PGA, so I think the odds you're getting on Bryson and Dustin, I wouldn't put anyone off like sprinkling them in. It's all about how you want to construct cards. Like for me, I would rather take two guys. Like I would rather take Hovland and Daniel Berger, for example, than just take one of Bryson or Dustin. You know, you spread your money around a bit. I really love the form Daniel Berger's coming in with. He's been really good on Pete Dye designs lately too. He's got 3 top 10s in his last 4 starts on Pete Dye courses. Then you can grab a piece of Hovland because the odds are bigger, right? So you can take either approach, and I think it's fine. But the nice thing about this is we have a ton of options, Dylan, because these guys' odds they're bigger than we saw at Augusta. You know, we weren't getting elite players at like plus 1800, so it's nice for betting purposes.
So one guy maybe below like 40 or 50 to 1 you really like this week.
For sure. I mean, I have my eyes on Patrick Cantlay at plus 4,500. I'm not sure if I'm going to bet him or not, but those odds have they ballooned up. I mean, they're to the point where, this is just almost getting ridiculous. I don't think Patrick Cantlay is that far off a decent week. I think, one thing, you just straighten out those irons a bit. And I think Patrick Cantlay could start scoring really quickly, but I'm not going to make him my kind of target there. There's definitely players I like better than him this week. And there's a ton of players that you can think about once you get over, plus 5,000 in the odds. I'm going to give Paul Casey the benefit of the doubt here. I think this kind of course really does, if you can get Paul Casey over plus 5,000, I'm fine with that. This is a dude who just hits a ton of fairways and he hits it long off the tee. He's not going to be intimidated by the fact that you have to hit it long and straight on every shot here. That's what he does. That's the meat and potatoes of his game. And you look at his season so far, he's really basically had like one small dip. And even at the Valspar, he's striking it great. I really think this is the type of major where Paul Casey, this course, it's going to play a little bit longer, but it's not going to play just where you have to be a pure bomber and you're not going to be able to kind of compete if you're not. I think Paul Casey can compete here. If he brings that sharp short game that he brought at the start of the year, I absolutely think that he's a guy who can get himself in the mix. And he got in the mix at this tournament last year. So in terms of like pure win equity over plus 5,000, I like Paul Casey right now.
Yeah, and also you look at it, who finished well in 2012? A lot of Englishmen and people from Europe, and you think, I mean, yeah, it may not be windy, but the Brits have dealt with courses more exposed, being playing the Open Championship or maybe more open setups.
On that point, this is more of a European tour style course because you'll see more open courses. They go to Portugal and all these other tropical places a lot of the time. So it is more of a European style course. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. One guy I'm interested, one guy I don't know what to expect. I literally have gotten no expectation from him. How is Brooks Koepka 50 to 1? He's like Mr. PGA Championship.
It's such a big number, and I agree. I mean, it's tempting. He is Mr. PGA Championship. Again, it's one of those numbers. It's like it's the same reason why I'm interested in Cantlay. I mean, and realistically, people are probably saying, well, it's not the same, Geoff, like Cantlay isn't Brooks, but it's the same kind of deal, right? I mean, these guys are really elite players. And I know Brooks Koepka is a far more prolific winner, but he has like legit injury concerns. Whereas, Cantlay is just like, seems to be working through something mentally. So it's kind of, if you want to take a shot on either one of those players, it's kind of, where do you want to take the risk? Do you want to take a risk that Brooks isn't there physically, or that Cantlay is just not going to get through it mentally? If I look at those two players, I think Cantlay is probably more likely to just put it together. He's been playing a lot. I don't think it's a physical or an injury issue with him. Whereas Brooks, you've got to go out there on a tough course for 4 rounds in a row and perform. And I just don't know if Brooks is there yet. So the number is super tempting. If you can get Brooks on a top 10, that might be the way to go this week. But for me, I don't think I'm going to do it. the nice thing about it is if you want to if you really just feel like I got to take a chance this number, it's not going to cost you that much because it's plus 5,000 now. So big number we're getting on Brooks for sure.
Yeah, so now we go from betting to the DFS side, and who are your favorite DFS plays this week?
Yeah, so for DFS, I mean, obviously a whole different like set of strategies we're considering. I mean, taking in salary on DraftKings and stuff like that. I mean, I talked about liking Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth at the top, and if I say that, I mean, you look at the big salary differential there. Jordan Spieth at 10-1 to me is just he's probably the best play above 10K. Now I say that knowing that Rahm and Bryson aren't higher above him, but I think if we're going to take things like recent form into account, like you've got to consider Spieth as being the cheapest guy in the 10K range as probably being the best play there. Now, I still like Rahm and Bryson, and we're talking about really small edges here, but I definitely like, when you're looking at how to construct lineups here, I think you either roll the dice that like Justin Thomas or Rory McIlroy are going to kind of dominate here and be like that elite player and have an elite week because they both have good lead-ins. And then you look for, because there's a ton of value you can pair them with, or you go more balanced and you start with Spieth, and then you can pick off guys in the 9K range who are undervalued there.
Yeah, to me, the most interesting name at the top, I can't believe I'm saying this, but could this be a quiet or maybe somewhat quiet Xander week?
It could be. Xander he's just so good at the majors. I mean, 9,600, I assume he's going to get, when the salaries came out, I honestly, I didn't even really look at what Xander's number was. Maybe I'm just like at Xander fatigue because this is a guy who he's so popular every week, but he's so good every week too, especially in the big events that, my eyes just like blinked past him. So I think that as the week goes on, people will get on Xander. And I do think it's a little bit too cheap. Again, you compare, it's not just like, oh, okay, Spieth is playing better. Maybe he's not as prolific a player as Bryson, but then people look, oh, this guy like finishes in the top 10 of every major. He's only 9,600. Yeah, I should be playing him. I'm not going to play Brooks Koepka. People still don't like paying up for Colin Morikawa, although I don't know why. I think Colin Morikawa is just an insanely good fit for this week. But I think Xander Schauffele is going to get taken there. I think he's going to be popular. So I don't know. I don't think I can pay up to like bet Xander Schauffele. He's probably going to win at some point. He definitely deserves to win. He's playing so consistently. He's got a good short game, but you look at Morikawa. Morikawa is a more elite iron player. You look down at Hovland. Hovland's, a better tee to green player right now. And you can even go down, like, you've got guys like Reed and Cam Smith who have been just as good or just as consistent as Xander. Like, to me, I'm okay fading him, I think. You can't play everyone. I love the consistency he brings, but I don't know if I'm going to really force Xander into my lineups. We'll see what the ownership projections bring later in the week. But like I said, I think he'll get up there and be pretty popular by the end of it.
And Xander is always popular. And, I mean, eventually Xander
He'll win something.
Win a major. It's a question of when, not if. So who are a couple cheaper options this week?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, once we get into the 8K range, I mean, I definitely like the value we're getting on Berger coming off a great week. I think Daniel Berger is just always a little bit underrated. He's always a little bit cheaper than guys like Hovland, Simpson, Reed, it seems like. And I'm not sure why. I mean, he's played 21 times. He's got 8 top 10s since last year's Charles Schwab Classic. Like, it's a ridiculous record he's on. I mean, and I think this is a good style of course for him too. Like I say, he's long off the tee. So I like that. But I think the real sort of like juicy values come like around 8K and just below. I mean, guys like Louis Oosthuizen, who's never missed a cut at the PGA Championship. He's coming in with really good form this year. Casey, I already mentioned, but I mean, you can go deeper than this. I mean, I'm sure everybody will be all over Abraham Answer, but Sam Burns at 7,500, Matt Wallace at 7,400. These guys are playing elite golf right now, and they're not priced up. I mean, you've got guys who they've been outplaying priced above them. So there's just so much depth at this 8K range that, like I said, if you do feel like when you're making lineups, you can start with like Justin Thomas and another stud, because you can just take advantage of the 7K range so much. There's so many good plays down there.
Yeah, to me, a guy who I don't know why he's always so cheap at a major, but Matt Kuchar's too cheap if you ask me, because if you think Pete Dye specialist, check, island courses, check, good form, better than last week in Dallas. And oddly enough, the 26th Olympics, you may not think of the Olympics and Kiawah Island as having comparison, but the real Olympic golf course and Kiawah Island both were on the same greens. And guess who finished third behind Justin Rose and Henry Stenson in Rio? Cooch.
It was Kuchar, wasn't it? Yeah. Good point, man. I mean, and just to that point, I feel like people won't play Kuchar here because that, like, oh, the course is too long. But I to your point, I'm pretty sure that Olympic course is like 7,600 yards. And I could be wrong on that though. But you look at the results from 2012 when the course was still playing 75, 7,600. I mean, half the guys in the top 10 drove at like 280. You had Steve Stricker up there. Poulter was in the top 10. Guys like that. I think Kuchar can play fine here. It's still a Pete Dye design course. He does so well at those. Like I said, I almost made him my sleeper this week. I went with Schwartzel just because I feel like the upside with Schwartzel is just a little bit better. Like, Schwartzel's a guy I think could actually compete for the win here. I don't necessarily see Kuchar doing that, but I do see Kuchar potentially having a good week, like you said. So I like the call. I think that if you're going in that range, most people will be drawn to bigger hitters, but I would be more prone. I don't want to throw out Ricky Fowler's name, but I would be more prone to going to Matt Kuchar there than just taking a bomber, because Kuchar's been more consistent with the ball striking, and on these greens, if he gets it rolling, like, he could just go nuts. So I like it. Yeah, I think the short games are going to be tested this week. We know Kuch will bring that. So again, I almost made him my sleeper this week in my DraftKings article. It's out now, and I like that call, man. I do.
And if it's more of a course where you can't bomb it, but it's more of a third shot on the par 5 where you're like chipping around the green, Kuchar can contend. If it's a tournament where it's bomber, Matt Kuchar's got zero chance. But if it's a 6, 7, 8 under PGA Championship, Kuchar's got every chance of maybe not winning, but top 10.
To that point too, I kind of think that's how this is going to play. Like, again, it's a long course, but I think the par 5s are going to be 3-shotters for almost all the course, and its length and its layout. A lot of these guys there's not big layout spots in Pete Dye designs. So if you are laying up, you're not really like you're going to a spot where you're almost better off laying back because your chip is going to be so hard to the green. Or if you are going for the green, your degree of difficulty is just so small. Like, you're more likely to miss the greens here on your second shot than you are at bigger par 5s or bigger venues. So I think that's going to be, and I think that's why the shorter hitters competed here in 2012. So again, I'm definitely not crossing guys like Kucherov because of a lack of length. I'm not going to go out of my way to target shorter hitters, but definitely Kuchar is the guy on my radar.
So now we get to the fun part. Who's winning the PGA Championship, and what is the final score?
Oh man, the final score is I have absolutely no clue. I do not know how this course is going to play. The wind could wreak havoc. We could get like -3, or we could get like, even, or we could, if it stays down, look, slower greens, maybe we get like -15, -16. I'm just going to go in the middle and say, it's still going to play tough enough that, I think the wind is going to stay down. I'm going to say -12 if the wind stays down and we don't get anything crazy. And it doesn't look like we're going to. So, but again, I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly how this golf course is going to play. But we saw Justin Thomas hitting some shots on Instagram. These par 3s look impossible. So maybe I'll go a little bit lower. I'll say -11, instead of -12. So, but that's with the wind down. So that's my prediction for score. Did you want me to predict who's going to win as well? Did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go with Daniel Berger. I think we're going to get another breakthrough winner, and I just feel like Daniel Berger has been on a ridiculous run that just isn't getting enough press over the last little bit. And I think it culminates here. I really like the setup for him, so I'll go with Berger.
I'm gonna be born and take the guy who everybody hates right now. I'm gonna take Bryson. I know you think well bums don't do well on Pete Dye courses, you don't. But to me, I think this course will play a lot like Wingfoot last year. And who won Wingfoot?
Pretty sure Bryson did.
Yeah, the only guy he made Wingfoot look like Tifa.
That's right.
And be honest, I think Bryson will figure out his way around the course, and whether it's driver, 3-wood, putter, he'll find areas. He'll find areas in that hat where he can put the ball exactly where he wants and make enough birdies. Because to me, the par fives are going to matter this week. Yeah, you might not be hitting second. You might not be hitting the green with your second shot, but putting yourself in position where you can get 4, and those long pull, the length on the pull threes could matter. I think Bryson wins at 11 under myself. I don't think it's going to be if the wind's down. Now, if the wind's up, who knows what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, the conditions and the draw of it might factor into this too. You know, which side of the draw you fall on. So it's always fun. It might play a little bit more like an Open Championship from that regard. But if the wind is down, I think Bryson's chances do go up a little bit. So can't argue with that. I mean, you're picking one of the elites. You're not definitely not going wrong there.
I mean, I picked Xander in the Masters, and for 69 holes, I'm like, he's going to win the Masters. I'm like, oh gosh, and he fluffed it in 16 like he did 2 years ago. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, that one hurt me too. Don't worry. So I was right there with
you. Do you remember the one he hit at 16 after? I think he equaled. Was that? Did Xander equal 15 or Cantlay equal 15?
Oh, that was Cantlay back in 2019. I think that he equaled 15, and then. Did he hit it in the water in 16? I can't remember what happened to Cantlay. But
he hit it like 10 miles from the hole.
Cantlay was just trying to get out of the way so Tiger could win. That's all he was doing that year.
I think everybody was.
Yeah.
Because literally, like, Tiger and maybe DJ avoided the water at 12, and everybody else found the drink.
That year, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah, Brooks imploded, and then Francesco imploded as well. I think actually didn't Finau find the water too. So you're right. That's like I said, everybody just had their eject buttons on, so Tiger could grab that.
Jordan
15th major.
Jordan Spieth for like 3 eject buttons from the year Danny Willett won, but that's
he's just recovering from that now. I mean.
Yeah, so for Jordan Spieth one this weekend, he would get the Grand Slam a lot like a Roy at Augusta.
Yep, career Grand Slam, big week for Spieth. I'm sure he's got his sights set on this. I think the tougher the conditions, the better for Spieth this week, quite frankly. I think it is going to play tough. Like I said, I mean, 11 under is still like a very tough week for a PGA event. And if the wind does get up a bit, like I said, I'd push my prediction down by at least 3 strokes. So I think that favors Spieth. I think this course should do well for him. Like I said, he's not my pick to win, but he's definitely in the guys I was considering up front. If I was betting under that plus 20 to 1 mark, probably would be the guy I would be targeting first, with Justin Thomas like a close second.
What's Spieth's record on Pete Dye courses?
I don't think it's particularly good, if we're being honest. His record at the Players is certainly terrible. That's definitely something, to consider. Trying to think of other places. I think the Travelers is like a Pete Dye redesign or something. So I guess you could count that. But, I mean, realistically, I think how Spieth is hitting the ball, his driver is way more consistent and his irons are just fire right now. That I think that's the biggest thing more than anything with Spieth. Like he can take on these tough ball striker courses now, whereas, before the last 3-4 years, he just wasn't striking it consistently enough to contend at places like this. So I think that's the biggest difference. But, if you're being honest and you're looking at purely Pete Dye records. Yeah, I don't think his is quite that good, to be honest. So
I've got one for you. How about a second 2015 PGA Championship at Whistling Straits?
oh, there you go. That's a good one. Yeah. I knew he had like one good Pete Dye result, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. He was runner up to Jason Day, another kind of like watery. Well, it's not seaside, but it's like on Lake Wisconsin or something. I don't know. I can't remember, but yeah, a little bit of a similar style setup. So that's a good record there for you. Yeah. Spieth at Whistling Straits.
And then a long course too.
It is.
And plus, what also happened that year? He won Chambers Bay, that was may have been the oddest golf course I've ever seen.
I like that. I like that golf course. I think I was the only one though. I think I liked it just because it was such an exciting event, and the players were getting so mad on the greens that you could just like legitimately see the steam going out of their ears on every putt. So that was fun to watch. But yeah, I don't think they'll be going back to Chambers Bay anytime soon.
I'm just thinking it might be close to Edmonton, but like 1 in 18 went from like fall 4, fall 5, like every other day. Like, what in the world is this?
Yeah, that's right. They changed the it was bizarre. I don't think we haven't seen anything like that since changing the par. What did they do? A par 70 and then a par 72. I can't even remember what they did, but it was that was a crazy event. I liked it though.
You imagine they changed the 7th hole to like a par 6 at Pebble?
Should do that more often. I mean,
then we've got a chance. So, thank you for hopping on the podcast, Geoff, and we hope that our bets and DFS options work out this week. Please play responsibly.
Absolutely, dude, and good luck to everybody. Give Dylan a subscribe and a like, before you head out. And appreciate you having me on, man. Really enjoyed this talk.
Thank you.